Hi, how are you?
I am okay. I am okay.
Getting towards the end of the day.
Yeah. And the words that are in my head are life is life, and so I'm good. I'm okay. I'm doing my thing.
Life is life and is good. Life is lifing is good.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm giggling a little bit right now because I'm looking at the dog right now, and the dog is like passed out on the couch. Like he is like, guys, is it nap time? And he's like napping hard. And I was a little bit worried at one point that he was going to start snoring on the camera and that you'd be able to hear him because of how out he is right now. So
Just
it's
tired. Just tired.
we all, we all need
Feeling
a
the end of the
dog's
day.
life.
It's what, that 3 o'clock? Yeah, so it's like in the middle of the afternoon
Yep. He's ready
type
for
of time.
nappy time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Jen needs nappy time too.
I do. I need a nice hot chocolate.
Oh, interesting. Are you a napper?
No.
No. Okay.
If I nap, then I am not sleeping that night. That's
Okay.
just
Can
the way
you
my body.
nap though? Like, could you fall asleep in the middle of the day?
It depends how tired I am, yeah. I
Okay.
could.
Interesting. I could. Hot chocolate though, eh?
I love hot chocolate. But I'm my body is having this thing with sugar,
Mhm.
so I can't really have hot chocolate because then I have this negative reaction.
Yeah, that's
And
no
you
fun.
know me, I love my desserts. So
Yeah,
I'm suffering right
that's not good, that's not good.
now.
We can find you some sugar-free desserts. Can you have fake sugar?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
Okay,
Probably. Probably. But
okay.
I love my fruit. I
Yeah,
love so that works. That
that's
works.
fair, that's fair.
Hmm.
I went to a new grocery store on the weekend. I'm the only person who gets excited about new grocery stores. I was so excited. And I bought fruit that I've never bought before because it was available at the new grocery store, so I was really excited.
What kind of grocery store was it? Was it like a new chain grocery store, or was it a
It's a
private?
chain that's new to London, so,
Ah,
where I live. So it's called Adonis, and so Adonis is a GTA-based chain, and it's a Mediterranean grocery store, but it's, like, big. Like, it's like a full grocery store. It's not like a specialty shop, but they have really cool stuff. Like, I literally left and called multiple friends and said, "Okay, what event can we host?" The person in me who likes to feed people needs to feed people, because there's so many options. They have
a nut bar.
a nut bar, like literally like 6 feet of counter space. It's just all different kinds of nuts. They have a nut bar.
Oh,
They have an
I'm gonna have to
olive
try
bar
this.
that's probably 15 feet long, all different olives.
See, I'm not an olive person.
Yeah. But
Oh,
meat, like they had probably like 8 different kinds of marinated chicken, like fresh marinated chicken, whole bunch of different like beefs marinated. The fish bar was gorgeous. It was
I'm
it
gonna have to try this place.
Yeah, it's great.
Do they have lots of cheese? I love
A
different
whole
cheeses.
huge cheese bar, huge cheese bar.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try a new place. I'm gonna try a new
there you
place.
go. I'm obsessed. I'm a weirdo who loves grocery stores. I don't have a segue on that one. I do not have a segue. We could have a group of people who love food. That could be the segue. I'm going to start an ERG for food.
ERG. So first, let's start with what is an ERG? Because a lot of people don't necessarily know. Employee Resource Group. What
Yes.
is an employee resource group?
So if I go with a really simple definition, like ultimately an employee resource group would be sometimes also referred to as a business group, like an employee business group or a community resource group, community business group within an organization or a network within an organization. Essentially, it is a group that is there to support typically people with diverse backgrounds, underrepresented groups usually, to help support them with navigating the company, understanding just unique things that might happen
Mhm.
for them at work. But it's a way to support employees with creating inclusivity at work.
Yeah. So like people with similar not backgrounds, that's not what I want to say, but similar interests,
Yes.
right?
Interests, people who identify in similar ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So an example would be you could, especially in male dominated space, you might have an ERG for women,
Yeah.
right? Or I know TD, for example, has ERG for their Black and staff, right?
Yeah.
So there's just different places have ERGs. They can be of anything. Could be of
Definitely, I would say definitely very popular in like Fortune 100, 200, 500 companies. In the larger organizations for sure, definitely very popular.
Mhm.
Um, they have access to more resources, more people, larger teams, all those things. I was talking to one company that had 44,000 women in their women's group. So yeah, like,
Wow.
which is obviously crazy um, compared to other companies, but yeah, the larger companies tend to. There's a bit of an expectation that larger companies would have these groups.
Okay. All right. And so with the creation of these groups, there is always the chatter,
Yes.
right? There's always the chatter. Like, well, if we're trying to create inclusion, why are we excluding? That is something that we often will hear, right?
Yes.
And it's not about exclusion. Like, if you think about it, if you are okay, let me speak from my own life. All right. So as a Black woman growing up in Canada, when I would go out somewhere, I was often one of the only.
Hmm.
Often, like I'd be the only Black woman in, especially when I came to London and I started in the entrepreneurial networking groups and everything, I would be the only at an event, right? And when I started to see other people who looked like me, I would gravitate because it's like, ah, someone who looks like me. Yay, okay. And we have conversations and we talk and stuff like that. And so there's a comfort level when you're around people who um are similar to you, especially when you're in an environment where people are not similar to you. Right? And for people who have people who are similar to them all the time, it's not something that's even thought of necessarily.
Yeah.
And so that's why they wouldn't think of, well, what do you need that for? Because it's not something
Totally.
that impacts you, right?
Yeah, and I think like if we go back to so right now, for those of you who are joining us, we are AWL Partners. But when we started, we were all women lead. And our purpose was to bring women together to have real conversations about the challenges of what it meant to lead. And that was because Jen and myself were looking for a place where there were other women like us who wanted to talk about the real stuff. There were lots of groups at the time for women, and they were like girl boss groups and stuff. Don't get me started on that. Jen knows how I feel. Um, but there were a
Nothing
lot of
against any of those groups. Nothing.
nothing
They
against
they
the
they serve
groups.
their purpose.
Yes. I just don't like their name. I'm gonna get canceled. But there were we didn't necessarily identify with the themes that were talked about in those groups. And we were looking for a space for ourselves. And that was kind of how All Women Lead was originally born, was because we wanted to have the hard conversations. We wanted to have some of the tough conversations. We wanted to talk about um like Jen, I always think back to like us both talking about the fact that as as women, because we actually like to work and we didn't need to be at all our kids stuff, and we definitely wanted to be their kids. There was never a time I didn't want to sit and watch you practice the same dance for 4 hours straight. um
Or pick dandelions out of the grass.
Yeah, while playing soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that we were unable to be at all of these things, that sometimes led to other women judging us because we prioritized our work over our kids at certain times. And like that was a conversation we wanted to have. And that was not the conversation that was being had in some of these other groups. So
It's
that's how
taboo.
we started, right? Like it's like, yeah, it's a taboo, exactly. So I think like that is ultimately what an ERG does, is it does that in the workplace, is it helps people find their group.
Yeah. 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 And it's important. But now, to be fair, a lot of organizations recognize the fact that, yeah, we need to have these, right?
Yes.
But they don't necessarily have the resources to be able to run them effectively.
Yes. Which is I think is one of the biggest arguments against, not, I don't, I think it's one of the biggest challenges and one of the arguments against like why these are ineffective. And I think we have to separate whether their purpose is ineffective from whether or not how they're being run is effective, because
Mm.
that is two very different
Yeah,
things,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Like to do it well takes time, it takes money, it takes energy, it takes commitment. And how a lot of organizations have created these groups is by going, hey volunteer, can you do this in your spare time? And so that's led to it being an off the side of your desk project, not actually being prioritized. And this is no fault to any organization, this is just how they're volunteer organizations, so they're like many businesses, they're like, hey, volunteer time. But then we all know what happens if you get a volunteer leader who doesn't have the time, isn't necessarily as passionate about it, or who knows what else happens in their life, where it's not their priority, typically means it's fast, it's ineffective, and things like that. So the question starts to become, is it that the purpose is ineffective, or just how it's executed is ineffective?
Right, right. No, and that's absolutely right. And so one of the solutions that we actually offer is to support organizations with ERG content,
Hmm.
right? So we put on a lot of different programming and invite different businesses in to virtually to be able to be part of it and to have the conversations post the events and stuff like that.
Well, and what's funny is when we started these sessions, we thought they was actually going to be to support small businesses that didn't have enough employees to have have these
Hmm.
groups,
Yeah,
because at the
yeah.
time that we were like, well, how can we help small businesses offer things? Because if we go back to ERGs as a whole, one of the greatest intentions behind ERGs is to help with attraction and retention, right? Like people want to work for organizations that align with their values, that understand diversity and things like that. So it was a talent and retention tool. And like any talent and retention tool, if it's given the right, if the seed is watered, the seed will grow. But if it's not, then it doesn't. But we looked at it as, and at the time when this all started, too, we were just coming out of COVID. Job talent was, it was that crazy time. If we think about that crazy time where people were leaving jobs and getting 25% wage increases, and it was this wonderful world where there was just money flying around everywhere, and these poor small businesses couldn't keep people because they didn't have the programming, they didn't have the money. Like small businesses were just getting drained. They'd just come off the hit of COVID. Like, so we were like, oh, let's help small businesses with this, which we still do. Um, but what it's turned into, and what one of the greatest challenges that you hear about with ERGs is it's turned into a solution for employee resource groups, because content is hard to source and to find and all of those things. And so we offer content, and then they don't tend to have big budgets. So this is an inexpensive way for them to manage not having a large budget to find great speakers and everything else, because we do it on volume. Um, and so, but that comes down to sort of that conversation, I would say, around, so if you're going to have one of these groups, right? So I'm a company and I'm going to have one of these groups. Like, is it better to have a group and not resource it, because then it just, which we, let's call it out, it's probably tokenism, or or is it better to like, or like it, or is it better to not even have the group? Like, you know what I mean? Like, which is, I and I don't think either of us really knows the answer, but do you have thoughts on that, Jen? Like, is it better to have it and under resource it, or just not have it at all?
I think if you're going, I think you can have it and it doesn't have to be a huge resource if you know what the goals are of it.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can have it where it's just a time for people to be able to come together and talk and just support one another.
Yeah.
That doesn't cost
It
anything,
doesn't cost anything. Yeah.
right? Or you can have it where there's actual programming where there is a cost. So it just depends. It depends on what the goal of the group is. What's it for?
So we've both spoken at different ERGs over
Mhm,
time.
mhm.
When you have spoken at ERGs, like in different groups, what are, have you heard from people like why they love them? Have people told you like what they appreciate about having access to a group like that?
So I can give one example. So I was invited to speak at an ERG during Black History Month. It was
Mm.
a Black ERG for
Hmm.
Black ERG for Black employees. And um, one of the things that I commonly heard was space where I can just breathe, right? Because
Mm.
oftentimes when you are in an environment where there aren't people who necessarily look like you, there's a lot of things that you have to navigate. You've got to navigate the microaggressions. You've got to navigate the negative stereotypes that they might have heard, and so then they're putting it on you. I don't know how many times people are trying to relate to me, and so they go, "Hey girl, what's up?" I'm like, why are you talking to me like that? Like,
Yeah.
and it's not that it's a bad thing, it's just that I've never seen them speak that way to anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it's like, okay. And then sometimes you've got to watch how you present yourself and all of those things. But when you're in the ERG, when you're in the company of people who look like you or who have the same interests as you for whatever it is, it's a time where you can just breathe,
Yeah.
right? To be able to face whatever it is that you got to face.
And it's interesting, right? Like, we had somebody last year at one of our events. So we focus on inviting allies to our events, and most ERGs allow allies to attend. Like, so the whole argument about, they're exclusionary. Allies are welcome. Allies are welcome. But it was interesting because at the end of our event last year, somebody said to us, a, a, a a male said to us when we were hosting a women's event, a male said to us, I know this was for women, but I learned a lot today. And and which is fantastic. But I think it speaks to the point, right? Is like most of the conversations that are had are not specific to the group that's being served
Yeah.
in the group.
Yeah.
It's just a space where I can safely hear the information. And for us, for a women's group, we make sure the speakers are women. We put the women
Mm.
on the stage because too often we don't, that's not, that opportunity isn't there.
Yeah.
Um, Goes back to my chat GPT image. But, but, but you know what I mean? Like, so
Uh-huh.
it's, but the topics are, are not gendered
Yeah.
or racialized for the most part. Like, that's
Yeah.
not how things go.
It's so interesting because I remember when I used to invite a whole bunch of people on LinkedIn to all women lead events, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I remember, I'll never forget, this one guy messaged back and said, I do not support things like this because it's very you're excluding people. I believe we all need to come together, blah, 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 blah. Like,
You were like, hey, I'm inviting you.
okay. I was like, whatever, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or I've also heard like there are white people who believe that at the Black ERG, keep calling it Black ERG, the ERG for Black employees, um, that it's there must be conversation about white people and how bad they are, and it's like we ain't talking about y'all. Like we're
And
not
well,
talking about
and
you.
that's when because I do the sponsorship and stuff for our big event for International Women's Day. I have that conversation a lot, right? Where I'll be out and talking to an organization, and as we grew and when it became as large as it became, it led to me talking to bigger companies. And when I started to have those conversations, they said, well, I thought you're just for men. And I was like, no, no, everyone's welcome. Like we invite allies, we're including everybody. And that was exactly it. Like, it's like, well, and I was like, you don't come up. Like we're not talking about you, I promise. You don't even come up. And I always say, like, especially for women, I'm like, I don't think you guys realize we're way worse to each other than men are to us a lot of the time. Like we're not nice to each other.
Yeah.
We've been taught there's only room for one of us at the top, so we
Hmm.
trample.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
so it's always funny, like where the exclusionary comments, because they're not backed from experience. They're typically just people filling in the blanks with information that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
if we
you know,
take
and but to be fair, some of the times when those conversations do, I'm not going to say they never come up, but sometimes when those conversations do come up, it's because someone has had an experience and they're sharing the experience with the group that is going to get it.
yes,
Don't have to
yes,
explain because they get it.
yes,
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So, Jen, what are your thoughts around? So, let's just pretend you're looking for a job, which you're not, because I'll not be impressed. Don't leave me. Um, Jen's done, guys. But let's pretend she's leaving me. Let's pretend you're looking for a job. And if you're like actually like researching a company, everything else, like what does it say to you if a company is investing in things like employee resource groups or different things to help create inclusion and belonging versus an employer who doesn't? Like, how do you look at that differently? Like, or do you even look at those things differently?
Um, the last time that I was looking for a job, I did ask that type of question,
Mhm.
right? And so what I was looking for and hoping for was that there was some thought and effort, because then I don't have to break into anything, right?
Yep.
They've already started thinking about that, because I'm just at a point in my career and in my life where I don't want to be the groundbreaker. I, I'm
Mhm.
I'm kind of done doing that. I'll leave that for
Yeah.
the people with a little bit more energy than I've got to do that, right?
People
And
not in perimenopause?
exactly. So and but that's me, right? And
Yeah.
so for me that's it tells me they're trying, they're making the effort, they're open to the conversations, as opposed to other organizations where there's blinders, and sometimes it's just ignorance, and it's not even that they're a mean ignorance, it's just they don't know what they don't know, and
Mm.
that can be exhausting to have to break into.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, right? Like, I think that that's a really powerful way to look at it because it's not about, it's actually just more about, and I think, sorry, lots of thoughts. It's because it's one, it's about that values alignment, which we talk a lot about, but two, it's about, you know, do I have to teach it or is it already here? Like what part in the journey are they already at? And it's not even because you never once said it has to be an effective ERG. It has to be a this. Like it's just the consideration, like the fact that they're going, this is probably going to be helpful for our team members, which I think speaks a lot to organizational culture right? Like, do I want to be part of an organization that doesn't consider the fact that, different team members are going to have different experience in their environment?
Yeah. Because if an organization has not thought of these things, then you're probably going to be met in an organization where there's a lot more microaggressions,
Hmm.
where if an issue does come up, that the defensiveness is going to be high, right?
Yeah,
Because it's like, oh, we don't do things like that. Or we're not racist. We're not that. And it's like, I didn't say you were. Right.
yeah,
So yeah. So just having the thought and putting the effort, because the effort means that there's some time and there's some resource, because resources isn't only just money.
yeah,
Resources
it's
is
time.
time too, right? And so
Yeah,
if a company has thought of those things, then to me it's like, okay, that's one that I want to check out. Even
yeah,
if they might not pay me as much as another company that has not, I'm still gonna check them out
yeah.
because I'm gonna feel comfortable, more comfortable, likely there.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because so in I've worked in the employee engagement space for a long time now, and so in that space, I talk a lot about energy systems and the fact that we've got four energy systems, and one of those energy systems is our emotional energy system, and ultimately the with the energy systems, if I am a workplace that considers those energy systems and how we can help support teams with those, that means they're not going home tired and burnt out and exhausted and all those things, tends to lead to higher employee engagement, higher attrition of team members, or lower attrition of team members. And so what you're speaking to speaks directly to that emotional energy system. So the emotional energy system is impacted by, do I feel like there's trust in the environment? Do I trust the people I work with? And is there safety, right? Like, is trust and safety are the two things that impact the emotional system. And for businesses, if we think about the impact of that trust and safety side of energy, right? If I don't have to tiptoe around conversations, if I can speak openly, if I feel like it's a safe space for me to do things, I'm actually more productive, I'm more creative, I'm more innovative, I'm all of those things. So by creating spaces for people to be able, that shows, we care about your safety, we care about you as a person, which makes me therefore trust you as an employer, that actually increases things like innovation, creativity, productivity, all of those things. And as much as people say, it's hard to measure the ROI of something like an employee resource group, we can measure the ROI of retention. We can measure the ROI of keeping people. We know the hard dollars that it costs every time we have employee turnover. And so these are all tools in the toolkit in
Right.
terms of how do we keep employees happy at work, which is ultimately everything we do is all about. Like, how do we create workplaces that people want to be a part of?
Right.
Hard to say. I can't say me teaching you how to communicate better equals this dollar amount. But I can say me lowering your turnover by 5% saves you a lot of money. And so it's like, that's where this stuff and the space
Mhm.
we live in gets so complicated for the workplace, because
Yeah.
it's hard to put a number to it, but we know where it lives.
Yeah. 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 Okay. I'm going to my question bank because I got questions.
Okay.
I got
Question bank.
questions.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
I always worry when Jen just starts asking me questions.
Okay. So burnout is another hot topic right
Yeah.
now, right? It's another big hot topic right now. So when we think of ERGs, how do ERGs support the prevention of burnout?
Mm.
Because burnout is expensive for organizations and businesses,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I think there's a couple different ways we can look at this. Like, I think on one hand, it's similar to what we were just talking about with the energy systems, right? So if employees know they have a safe space, then that will help prevent from burnout. But I think what we know about ERGs in particular, if we're talking about ERGs, is it is typically a volunteer. And so even it's those little things, and I feel like companies as a whole need to look at this for any of these volunteer opportunities. I think we're past the days of, Jen, you and I grew up in the world of corporate where volunteer opportunities were how we moved up.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're past
Mhm.
those days. And I know the boomers and the Gen Xers, which we fall into, are all sitting there going, well, we had to do it. And it's like, just because we had to do it doesn't mean it's right. And so I joke often. I look, one of my best friends, her and I grew up in the same organization together. We did the 100-hour week so we could get the promotions and all those things. And my son looks at me and is like, I don't want to work more than 30 hours a week. And I initially was like, yeah, whatever. And then I looked at my friend one day and I went, I think he's smarter than us. Like, think he might be on to something.
I used
And
to be one of those people that would say, "Well, I did it, then they should be able to
everyone
do it."
do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I just think we're starting to enter a world where, um, like it or not, the younger generation is not going to do these things. And so somebody's going to get promoted at some point and it's going to change the mindset within the
Mhm.
organization. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's got to be crazy, because there's always going to be people like Jen and I who are still going to do the above and beyond and offer to go to the extra stuff. But it's an ERG as an example. If it takes an hour a week to organize it, just let the person spend the hour on their job organizing it. Give the hour. Like this doesn't need to be crazy complicated. And the crazy thing is that if we actually give that time, you'll probably get 2 hours of productivity back in return, just by showing that you care about that flexibility. So yeah.
Okay, so then should ERGs then influence policy and procedure, like the way things are done, leadership types of decisions, or should they just be social spaces?
Um I don't I think there's power in asking, right? Like, this is going to be not a totally relevant analogy, but it is a relevant analogy. When my son got bullied in school, he was put on the anti-bullying task force because he had the lived experience to speak about what should be on the task force. So he was brought in to speak with the teachers about what would be important. So I think it depends. If the policy is going to impact the employees and like their employee work experience, asking for opinions from groups just shows that you're trying to take the information. It's not necessarily going to be how you implement,
Mhm.
but just understand. Like, and again, I don't know if it's access to employees. To me, whether or survey everybody. Like, to me, employee surveys are invaluable. Like, I think we employees should be engaged in decisions if it's going to change their experience at work. And I say that with the asterisks. There's a big difference between engaging them and doing what they say. Like, but we should ask, because there could be valuable feedback and information that we gain from that conversation. But it should be everybody. I don't think it needs to be exclusionary to just the groups.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question.
Okay.
What do you think would happen
Oh dear.
if every workplace had a place where people didn't have to explain themselves? If people had a place where they could just be, what
Oh,
do you
doesn't
think
that
would
sound
happen?
lovely?
Doesn't it though?
Doesn't that sound like a wonderful world? Could we expand it past the workplace? Is that a possibility? Like, can we take it past the workplace and just into the world? I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna turn this question on you too, because I want you to answer it too.
Mhm.
Because this is always where our two lenses of how we look at things is cool. So I would say, if I take a look at this an from an organizational effectiveness standpoint, and look at this from the goal would be productivity. Companies' ultimate goal is to make money, right, wrong, or otherwise. It's the ultimate goal. It's how they can continue to offer. It's how they can continue to operate. Welcome to capitalism. So companies need to make money. And so if everybody could just be, they could actually focus their time on the work they're there to do. And therefore, increased productivity, increased effectiveness, increased efficiency equals increased product, which means the company's bottom line would actually probably go up. Or they could be less of a capitalist world and they could pay people more and people could all live even happier lives because the company would still be making good money. Just throwing it out there. But that would be that's my business answer. So what's your human answer?
If people were available or able to just be, you'd have less complaints. You'd have less time wasted with people having those side conversations. You'd have a more productive workplace. You
Mhm.
really would have a more productive workplace and a place where people want to be.
People would be happy.
People would be happy. People would be
Yeah.
happy. I know, I don't know how many times I've had people come to my office complaining about this person treated me this way, this person,
Oh,
blah, 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 right? And it's like, first of all, if people had a place to be, then that would mean that people within the organization have been trained, have
mhm.
been made more aware of how to allow people to be.
Yes.
Right? I don't even like the word allow people, but just how we show up to prevent people from being able to be.
Yeah,
Right. So increasing that self-awareness piece. Everything comes down to self-awareness.
it does. Well, and I think you're 100% right though. Like, it's how much, I don't have a total, I used to have a stat on this, I think. The amount of time and what that equates to, I want to say, I might be making this up, so definitely don't fact check me on this, but I feel like the stat that I used to have was $350 billion a year in wasted productivity because of engagement issues at work.
I believe that.
And it led to between sick time and wasted time on conversations and all those things. So yeah, I think that was the number. And I think it was on wasted productivity due to people stuff.
Mhm.
So this is
You know,
why.
what we have to keep in mind, because we live in this multicultural society, right? And I say multicultural, but then like multi everything, really,
Mhm.
right? Is that we people have different ways of doing things, and that doesn't make it wrong, doesn't
It's
make
just
it
different.
right, just makes it different. And that
Yeah.
essentially is what diversity is,
Yeah.
difference. So we need to understand how to be okay with difference.
Yeah. And different goals, right? Like I've read a number of books by David Livermore, who runs the Cultural Intelligence Institute out of Michigan. And there's a story in one of his books that speaks to a fisherman, I think in the Philippines, but a fisherman who a US person was there visiting and was like, oh, we could take this and, we could grow it and we could expand it and we could do all these things with it. And wouldn't it be amazing? And the fisherman, and we could franchise it, money, 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 money.
Mhm.
And the fisherman said, but then what would I get with that? Like, why would I do that? And he goes, well, then you could spend time by the water and you could fish and you could have this. And he's like, but I have all those things now. And it's always just been that story that sticks in my head, because we, North America, from a business perspective, have just it's more, 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 more. And we've created this world where more equals success and success, but we're all doing it so we can do less.
You
Where
know, so I think that's a lie that we tell ourselves. So, like, I remember Jen, why do you do what you do? Well, I want to make sure that I provide a nice life for my family and spend time and do this and do that and all of that, right?
Mhm,
If that were true, right? If
you would
that
just
were
do it now.
true, then I would just do that now
Yeah,
with less,
yeah,
live within my means with less. What I had to come to the realization is that I like being a leader. I like
yes,
having the high regard. I like people coming to me to consult. I like that,
yeah,
right? And so being able to admit that
mhm,
and say, well, I don't necessarily want to be with my kids all the time. And I don't necessarily want to do all it's just a good thing to say that that's why I'm doing all of this.
yeah.
Well, no.
Also, why having a safe space to be able to say these things is powerful. Are we leaving people with an action? Do we have an action?
Mm. Yes.
Oh, yes,
Look
okay.
at
Woo,
your organizations, at your businesses, wherever it is that you work. What ERGs are there? And if there aren't any, should there be? What are you going to do
okay.
about it?
Awesome. Awesome. Amazing. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.